What's going on, people? I wanted to continue our discussion on crafting that we started the other day with our epic cards. Today, we're going to talk about some legendaries that I think are worth the craft. And then if you want, we can talk about commons and rares. But to be honest, commons and rares are so cheap, I think you should just craft a lot of them anyway. But let's start things off with our legendaries. I'll go ahead and pre-sort this so that there's only legendaries on the screen. And then I'll even turn on Soul Sight, because there are a few that I don't have yet. Set this to legendary. We'll turn on Soul Sight. Alrighty. So, I mentioned this last time, but cards like Garnag are not qualified to be on this list. This is a Dark Brotherhood card, so you don't have to craft them. You just get them over time. But yeah. So, first things first, with strength, I have 3 listed as cards you should consider crafting. I know it's a little bit high, but there's a lot of really good cards in strength. The first one I'll talk about is Blood Dragon. Blood Dragon is just very, very strong. Obviously, the stat line is fantastic. 5 mana, 5/7 is really strong. Being able to ignore guards and go face is really good. And attacking creatures in any lane means you can play this in the opposite lane and still protect creatures in the other lane. It's just a really, really solid, like, king of mid-range card. Blood Dragon fits in a lot of lists. Probably best in mid-range. Pretty good in control sometimes. Not so much an aggro card, but just a very great card overall. Next card I want to talk about for strength is Woodorc Headhunter. It's a 5 mana 5/4 with breakthrough and gains charge if you have another orc. Honestly, you don't even need to be running a full-on orc deck for Woodorc Headhunter to be really good, but it gets better the more orcs you have. A 5-attack charge creature is really solid. 5-attack charge with breakthrough is really, really solid. And the fact that this thing still has 4 health, and that's not counting if you have like the orc banner up, but even just 4 health means a lot of the times, even if you're getting past a guard, this thing can kill the guard, deal breakthrough damage, and stay alive, and that's all from hand. Woodorc Headhunter, it's slightly conditional, but it's so powerful that I think this is worth a consideration. Because even if you're not running an orc deck and you're just running a regular strength-based aggressive deck, between your orc clan captains, your Morkel gatekeepers, and if you add like one other orc in there, that's potentially enough orcs to be worth running Woodorc Headhunter. And finally, a slightly slower option, I would add Vigilant Giant to the list. 8 mana 8/8 with guard is very good. It has breakthrough, so it could deal some bonus damage when it's attacking in return. It draws a card on summon, which doesn't seem super powerful, but it's a very, very strong ability. This card's a powerhouse in control. It's a powerhouse in rage decks. This card's just really, really, really good. Strength has some of the best legendaries in the game. Like, honestly, Reeve is honorable mention. Relentless Raider is honorable mention. The only one that I would say isn't, like, instant crafts are Volderung and Dremora Martinez, and even they have some uses. So, intelligence. This actually gets a little bit difficult, if I'm going to be honest, because I wouldn't craft most of these cards. Like Mentor's Ring, I use it in Stealer of Secrets OTK, but I wouldn't run this in tons of decks. Staff of Sparks has its own little meme deck that you can use this in, but it's not applicable very much overall. Indral Archmage isn't bad. Like, a lot of these cards are not bad, just they're not cards that really see a ton of play or that I'd rush to play. Like Archmage, Devaith Fear, Nocrane all fall into that. But the ones that I would give you can craft nod to. Daggerfall Mage is just a really, really good card. 3 mana 2/2 ward is solid. Trades into a lot of things. Survives, is great against aggro. And the ability to give you a Tome of Alteration, which not only is a stat buff, which can help you trick combat trades or survive things, push for extra damage. It also draws you a card. So it's cycle built in. Additionally, this ability is repeatable. So if Daggerfall Mage loses its ward, you can give it another ward to get another tome. This is just one of the better cards for the early game. It's just really hard to deal with. And then the other card I would give a consideration to is Supreme Atromancer. I don't think it's a necessarily like you should rush to craft this, but in certain decks, being able to play 13/9 worth of stats is very solid. The 2 Atronox have breakthrough, deals 4 damage right away, and then you can deal 2 extra damage for each card you summon afterwards. I think overall it's just really powerful. And it's not a card you're going to fit into every single deck, but outside of Tazcad, there's not very many better late game finishers out there. Next up for intelligence, you've got options. Lots of options. Black Dragon is not applicable because it is a Dark Brotherhood card. First one I would say is Dawnbreaker. Just +4/+4 on an item is really good. There's not a lot of really fat stat buffs in yellow. It's a lot of like going wide stat buffs. So Dawnbreaker is really good on that front. It also is very cost efficient for a +4/+4 item. Because items, if you have creature on the board, is almost like pseudo charge. I think Charmer goes on a lot of, I don't want to say rants, but tangents talking about how items can act as charge on the right creatures, and I agree. +4/+4 is a lot of damage to push. Just a really good card. Next up, I would take a look at Dawn's Wrath if you're playing Control. You get one of these for free when you hit attribute level 25 with Willpower. But if you're playing a control deck, like a true control deck, you're going to probably want 2 Dawn's Wraths, so you'll probably need to craft at least one. This is the best like true lane clear in the game. Destroys everything regardless of wards and all that stuff. It's just unconditional complete removal. And finally, I think the best of the bunch is Marok. 11 cost 5/5 isn't anything to write home about, but the summon ability flat out steals an enemy creature. And also you can trigger those abilities. So if you steal a creature with charge, it can attack right away. You won't see very many plays more powerful than Marok stealing a Tazcad. It's just an incredible swing. Marok is a very, very good card. It can steal guards out of your way, steal lethals out of your way. Marok is just an incredible card. It's probably near the top of all colors craft lists. Next up, we've got Agility. And again, Astrid is not applicable in this scenario. She is a Dark Brotherhood card. But the two that I would consider mainly, first one is Ungolem. He's a 1-mana 1/1, but the 3 Brotherhood Assassins are 1-mana 3/3s with lethal and draw a card. Ungolem doesn't fit into every single deck, but any deck that is going to play long enough to where you could draw 1 or 2 of those Assassins, Ungolem becomes huge. Just those Assassins are incredible cards. I don't necessarily think you play Ungolem in Control, but you can consider him in a variety of other lists, and he's a very good card. Thieves' Den, Mastermind are both situational cards, need to be in the right deck. Kinral Burglar, while pretty decent, rarely survives in order to attack. So the only other agility card I would say that you should consider crafting is Tazcad the Packmaster. 9-mana 6/6 with charge and breakthrough. It's the most powerful charge creature in the game. Has breakthrough, can deal damage skipping the last rune. If your opponent has 6 health left, Tazcad can kill them through the last rune. Additionally, if Tazcad dies, it leaves behind a 4/4, which means even if you still get your immediate value, if you have to trade in Tazcad and Tazcad dies, you get a removal spell with breakthrough that also leaves a 4/4 behind. Like, there's really no downside to Tazcad. He's just really, really good. Next up, we have Endurance. Endurance is a crowded one. Honestly, you can consider, like, almost all of these cards, outside of Cicero, because he doesn't count. But the 3 that I would consider the must-crafts, first one is Bone Colossus. Any mid-range deck I run with Bone Colossus. Bone Colossus just kind of wins the games. 7-mana 5/5 that summons 3 1/1s, so it's a 7-mana 8/8 as it is across 4 bodies. But additionally, it buffs the little skeletons by +1/+1, so this becomes a 7-mana 11/11 spread out across 3 bodies. Ice Storm doesn't answer at all. The only thing that really can answer Bone Colossus in one card is a Dawn's Wrath. And then even then you can have follow-up Bone Colossuses. Bone Colossi? I don't know. But Bone Colossus is an incredible card. And if you play a second Bone Colossus, it will buff all of the skeletons and the previous Bone Colossus. It's just a really, really good card. Next up, I would consider Nahagleave. 7-mana 7/7 with Guard is a defensive powerhouse. Additionally, it can't be targeted with actions, so no javelins are removing this thing, no edicts are removing this thing. It can be removed by things like Dawn's Wrath, since Dawn's Wrath doesn't need to target Nahagleave, and things like Viper can get by it. But overall, Nahagleave is an incredibly difficult card to deal with high stats. Your opponents are not going to want to see a Nahagleave hit the board. So, the final cards, there's Iron Atronach, which is solid in Ramscale, but not great in a lot of other decks. Same with Knight Talonlord. But I would put a craft moniker onto Blood Magic Lord. The stats are pretty solid. The Blood Magic spells are all really good. If you're not aware, there is Gargoyle, which is a 2-mana 5/5 guard. There's Corpse Curse, which is a 2-mana shackle all enemies in this lane. There is Raise Dead, which summons a random creature from both your and your opponent's discard pile. And then there is Drain Blood. I think it's Drain Blood or Drain Life, which is a 2-mana deal 5, heal 5. So all of the blood magic spells are amazing. So a 6/6 that generates one of those is already good enough on its own. Additionally, Blood Magic Lord has the ability that when he slays an opposing creature, he generates another blood magic spell. So the possibility to get bonus value from future blood magic spells makes Blood Magic Lord incredible and definitely worth it for many decks. Multi-attribute. This is another tough one because all of these cards are good in their own way. But if I had to show some love to the 3 that I think are best, first one is Anasi. Again, my distinction for picking these is both how important they are to those color mixtures, as well as how powerful they are overall. So like Anasi is great, removes guard from all your opponent's creatures. There's times where she's going to come down and just be a dead 5/5. But in general, if she's stealing guard, if she's stealing ward, if she's stealing charge, those are the 3 main ones that you're going to want to steal. Anasi becomes incredible. A 5/5 like ward charge is bonkers. Anasi is just so incredible. Honorable mention to Elena Banach. Just like I said, all of these cards are really good. It's hard to pick just one. But High King Emmerich is the next one I would pick. 6-mana 5/5 ward is already probably playable on its own. Additionally, Emmerich has the ability to deal 2 damage for each friendly creature with a ward. That can go face. So max damage, if you had 8 creatures with ward on the board, including Emmerich, you would be able to deal 16 damage with 1 oomph. But yeah, I mean, even if this comes down as like a deal 2, like Firebolt on a 5/5 ward is good enough. Emmerich is just incredible in Sorcerer. And then the final one that I would give the must-craft moniker to would be Red Brahmin. I don't necessarily think Red Brahmin is the most powerful of the remaining ones on this list, but I think Red Brahmin is the most important one to scout. 5/5 is okay stats. Silence and Shackle all enemies in this lane is incredible. You're getting rid of all of their abilities, you're getting rid of their wards, you're getting rid of their guards, and you're shackling them so you can set up trades in the next turn. Red Brahmin is like one of the reasons why Ramp Scout can exist, is because Red Brahmin can swing the turn in the late game. And finally, we're going to take a look at some legendaries in neutral. There's really only 2 here that I would consider. These 2 are both from Dark Brotherhood. Mundus Stone is a meme at best, as is Wabbajack. Goldbrand is, it's a decent card, but I don't think it's quite playable. I would consider crafting Orb for very slow decks. This is a little bit tough to pull off because you don't always have the ability to play this on 6 and not die. But Orb can get you a bunch of value, stealing 3 cards from your opponent's deck. I would give this like a soft craft rating. Like, don't rush to craft this, but it's a pretty good card. However, Odahviing is incredible. 10/10 worth of stats is very, very strong. 4 damage to all enemy creatures is incredible. Odahviing is just like the best control card we have in this game. And actually, I have my premium promote from my battle pass. We're going to promote Odahviing to be premium because I think he has one of the best premiums in this game. Look at that thing. Oh, that is gorgeous. I love me some Oda. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know if there's any other how-tos or advice videos you'd like to see me make for the Asian client. I know a lot of you guys have played before, so some of this information is probably repeat, but the meta is different now than it was back then. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.